Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. Today, we're going to talk about the simple past with regular and irregular verbs. So, the simple past talks about um, things that happened already, and they, yeah. So we're talking about time. Suppose we look at this timeline. And this is the now, so we call that the present. Okay. Well, tomorrow, if we talk about tomorrow or events that have not happened yet, so we refer to that as the future. And uh, before, so if I talk about yesterday, right? So something that already happened, we talk about the past. Okay. So today we're going to focus on the past. Now, the simple past talks about actions that already finished. Okay? So, actions that already already finished. Okay? So, if we look at our present tense that we've been talking about, we say, for example, our question can be something out of habit. So, what do you eat for lunch? Okay, now we know that this is the present. Okay, so for the simple past, right? Uh, regular verbs, okay, end with an ed, okay, and irregular verbs, um, they will just follow their own rule in the sense that they they will end differently. Okay? So if we talk about what do you eat for lunch, that means, well, every day, but maybe we're talking about yesterday. So let's look at that. So let's use a simple past. Okay. So what? Now here, the verb that we're going to conjugate is do, right? Do is irregular, so do turns to did. So what did you eat for lunch yesterday? Okay, so here we're talking about specifically something that happened in the past. Okay, so what did you eat for lunch yesterday? Okay, well, uh, notice here that also the verb that we conjugate is the helper verb to do, right? It's the first verb always. Okay, so that means eat will not change. Okay, so notice eat and eat will not change. Okay, um, our sentence uh, we're gonna have to use eat, and eat in the simple past changes to ate. Okay, so you can say I ate. Okay, I ate pizza for lunch yesterday. Okay, so here is my past tense right here. Okay, now let's look at some regular and irregular verbs. Um, okay, our regular verbs end in ed. Okay, so this has nothing to do with a verb being regular or irregular in the present. Okay, so this is regular verbs in the past. Okay, in the past, in the simple past. Okay, so let's look at some. Fix, grill, listen, play, stay, study, and watch. Okay, so we're going to be focusing on the ed, right? So fix turns to fix. Here's our ed. Now the pronunciation is fixed. Fixed. Okay. Grill turns into grill with an ed. Grilled. Grilled. Listen. Listen. And then ed. Listened. Listened. Play turns to play with an ed. Played. Played. Stay. Okay. With an ed. Stayed. Stayed. Let's look at watch. I'll come back to study, but let's look at watch. We use watch. Add the ed. Watched. Watched. Do you hear the T sound at the end, watched. Now, how do I do study? If it's a regular verb, there's no problem, right? Well, here, the Y turns to I. Okay? The Y turns to I. So the pronunciation is studied, okay, with a D, studied. Okay? The only thing is that we changed the Y to I. Okay? Um, this happens because the letter before the Y, okay, is a consonant, okay? That means it's not a vowel. Okay. So, let's look at that really quick. Really quickly. Let's look at the word play. Okay. The letter before play is a vowel. Okay. So that means we do not change don't change the Y. Okay? Play turns to played. However, study, okay, this is not a vowel. So, change the Y to I, and that's why we have studied, studied. Okay? That's a general rule for that. Now, the other type of verb is irregular verbs. Okay? And irregular verbs are just verbs that you're going to have to memorize. Because they don't follow a specific rule, okay? So they might change completely or they might not change at all. Let's look at some of these. Buy, drive. Earlier we saw the word eat, go, have, meet, read, and take. So buy is B-O-U-G-H-T, bought, bought. Drive turns to drove, drove. Eat turns to ate, ate. Go turns to went, went. Have turns to had, had. Meet turns to met, met. Now, read, the past tense of read is read, but the way we write that is the same, R-E-A-D. So no change on the writing, only the pronunciation. Read, read. And take turns into took. Okay? So these are just verbs. There are many more irregular verbs, but these are just some of the most common ones. And you're going to have to memorize them. Now, so let's just look really quickly at a couple of examples, and then we'll conclude the lesson. So using a regular verb, let's use fix. Okay? So let's say she fixed the computer. Oops. The computer yesterday. Irregular verbs. Suppose it's buy. So buy turns to bought. Remember that, okay? Fix turns to fixed. So we can say he bought. He bought a car last week. Okay? Looking at questions. Earlier we saw questions with what. So, what did you, let's say, what did you study? What did you study last year? Okay. I studied, remember, Y turns to I. I studied math last year. Or let's look at questions with to do. So a yes, no question. So did you, let's see, did you read last night? So naturally we say yes or no. So yes, I did, or no, I did not. Okay? Well, that concludes our lesson for today. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you later.